So we'll get started with the Fast Five. Our first question, what's your name?
Oh, this is a good one because my name has changed because we got married. So my name is not Dana Wilson anymore. Right now it's Dana Tinney Wilson. And it's so exciting. In October of 2024, my husband and I got married on the ranch, of course. And his name is Gary Tinney. So I took his name. Very exciting.
Well, I knew when we had corresponded, you had your new name in there. I was like,
yeah,
what's going on here?
What's here? Yeah, it's
well,
love.
Congratulations.
It's fantastic. Thank you.
And what's the name of your farm or ranch?
That has not changed. We are still Chantilly Ranch, and we're in Northern California.
Oh, yes. And what livestock species do you graze?
So we are running, it keeps changing. Right now we're running mostly boar goats and quite a few interbred. We've got some Saanen, we've got some Nigerian. I like kind of a variety in my species, even though they're all goats. I like the breed difference, right? So we're running goats of a few different kinds. And then we also have cattle, which is the Highland cattle. And of course, with variety, I've added some Dexters in there as well.
Oh, yes. Get some of those high decks.
Yeah, they're so cute.
Have you produced any of those?
No, not yet. We just brought in some bred cows, so they have to have their babies, which, man, a Dexter baby is about as cute as a Highland baby.
Yes, they are. I keep thinking we need a couple Dexters. And actually, I went to Farm Fest in Springfield, Missouri last year, which I plan on going again this year.
Yeah.
And some of the Dexters, which I've not been around Dexters very much, but they had this one breeder had really small ones. I was like, oh, man.
Yeah, no.
I really want to take one home.
But those are the ones you want to bring home and bring in the house, right?
Well, I don't know if I'm smart enough. I've been around cattle enough that I know they will not work with a litter box very well. So we'll keep them outside.
Yeah, that whole rumen's got to keep functioning all the time, right?
Right. If you feed them something too rich, it'll just coat the walls.
Oh, sure. For sure. We know that by actual experience.
Yes.
So yeah, our Dexters are not the teeny tiny ones. They're certainly not huge, but what we do find is that for our grass area, the grasses that we're growing natively in our area, they do really well on not super high quality forage. So that's the reason that I'm bringing the Dexters in. The Highlands do also, right? They're a little bit more capable of browsing. And so since we have silvopasture, we've got lots of grassy oak land, and the Highlands do really well in there. And so do the Dexters. They're very local. So instead of going far to purchase new seed stock, I went literally right around the corner so that they're habituated to our environment.
Yeah, which is so important. To continue on the Fast Five, what year did you start grazing animals?
We're 3 years into it now, so 21, I think. Yeah.
Welcome to the Grazing Grass Podcast, the podcast dedicated to sharing the stories of grass-based livestock producers and exploring regenerative practices that improve the land, animals, and our lives. I'm your host, Cal Hardage, and each week we'll dive into the journeys, challenges, and successes of producers like you, learning from their experiences and inspiring each other to grow and graze better. Whether you're a seasoned grazer or just getting started, this is the place for you. Are you ready to turn market data into your competitive edge? Introducing the newest course from Noble Research Institute, Market Smart Ranching. Learn how to evaluate the true worth of your livestock and assets, break down costs, and time buying and selling decisions like a pro. It's all about making smart, market-driven moves that put you ahead. Join Noble for Market Smart Ranching, October 14th and 15th in McKinney, Texas. Scholarship and grant opportunities are available for those who qualify. Visit noble.org and select Find a Course to learn more about Market Smart Ranching or enroll today. because smart decisions can lead to a stronger ranch. For 10 seconds about the farm, a few weeks ago, I mentioned I was brush hogging a little bit, mowing a little bit, and I actually planned to do much more than I did, but I did a small area here near the house. With the main goal, I had grazed the cows through this pasture, and I wanted to come in and clip off all the foxtail seed heads because the cows didn't graze them. So go in there and do that. And then I had another pasture with some of these foxtail seed heads, and I thought, I'll go clip some of those off and maybe the cows will graze the foxtail better. Well, it rained shortly after I did all that, and the foxtail immediately pushed up new seed beds, and you can't even tell I mowed. So basically, I wasted my time doing that, and partly because of that experience, and partly I'm not a person that likes to brush hog. I haven't mowed anymore. There's probably some mowing I'll do, but I don't want to just do it for aesthetic purposes. There's a real purpose. I'm more than happy to do it. For 10 seconds about the podcast, we have a past guest on today. She's going to share her updated journey, what she's been doing since she was on, I believe, episode 50. So what she's been doing since then. And then we get into IBC, or the infinite banking concept. It's something I know nothing about, or I knew nothing about until we talked to Dana. It's something I've heard about. I see the ads for farming without the bank. And I thought, here's someone who knows about it. Let's find out more. And I needed to find out more. And this way, you can find out more as well. This is not a financial podcast. We're not giving financial advice. But I hope you gain some through this conversation. And let's get back to Dana. And you alluded to this earlier, but you were on the podcast on episode 50, and we were talking about your journey there, adaptive grazing and getting started. So it's great to have you back on and refresh our memory, what you're doing out there, what has changed. Let's just continue with the topic of your cattle for a little bit.
Sure.
You're in Northern California. The thing for me, when I think about highlands, and people down the road have some highlands, they have so much hair.
Yes.
Do they have too much hair for your environment, or does it work pretty good? Do you deal with too many extremes on weather?
Yeah, we have some extremes, but they tend to land in the summertime. You know, we're 112 and it's hot and dry. Okay. In the wintertime, we do not have extremes. It would be silly for me to say that we did. I mean, sometimes we get a snow, maybe, and it doesn't stick.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, the deep winter is not deep at all for us. I find that the highlands, I don't know if it's because of the hair, but it's almost like they have a little sunblock. And I find that they tolerate the heat better. If they're slick and black, you know, like the Angus or something like that, I feel like they would be a little more affected by the heat. And I think that's true. If I look at the other producers, they have some heat issues where maybe it's because our specific breed of Highland, the strain even of the breed is native to where we're at. I mean, they were born there. They haven't come across the country. They're very habituated to our environment. And so I feel like, you know, I'm just guessing here, but the actual hair, they're not super hairy, but I think it does give them some relief from that sun. And then, of course, it certainly keeps them warm in the winter, but there's not much to warm from.
And you added Dexters in, and you mentioned earlier, it's not the real small ones. Now, when I think about Dexters, I think of a small animal. Now, I mentioned I went to the Farm Fest, and most of the Dexters were that style, that size. Yeah. But then there was one breeder that had the really small ones. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's ones that fascinated me greatly.
Yeah.
But you have the more traditional sized Dexters. Are you using them for milk, or is it just totally beef?
Right now, it's totally beef, although they are dual purpose. So are the Highlands, actually. Oh, it's just a matter of me. Can I get out there and milk every day? No, sir.
That is a commitment.
It is, right? And it's true that it is a commitment. It's a commitment to that mama that if you're going to bring her up to milking production, then you better stay with it. So, and I just can't do that. However, I will say that the Dexters that we have they're handled as babies. And so they're very broke, which means that if they have a quarter that's not functioning or something, I can pull them and I can milk them a little bit to get that thing moving. So I don't know if that is part of the fact that they are dual purpose and they're just more, or maybe they were just handled more and they're broke. So I really appreciate the ability to put my hands on an udder and get things moving.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just the fact of being able to put your hands on an animal, I think is good. Now, there's cases it's not so good, but yeah, I just love a calm animal.
Yeah, it really does make a difference. And I could see if I had a complete cowboy outfit and I had 2 ropers, a header and a heeler, and I don't need to touch them. I can rope them and then I can put my hands on them. There's definitely a necessity there if you have animals that are wild. Now, there is also a benefit of having animals that are wild in that they will not just let a predator walk up and put their, teeth on them. So that's important as well.
Yeah. With your Dexters, you got them, you already have the Highlands. Are you planning on crossing them or did you get a Dexter bull as well?
No bulls. We just got bred mamas and we have a Highland bull. So he's very excited to go to work.
Yeah. And I see those high Dex or crosses between a Highland and a Dexter advertised and people love them.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like something, for us, our end consumer is the plate, right? So we're doing direct to consumer, grass-fed, grass-finished meat sales. And I tell you what, as cute as the Highlands are, they're equally delicious. And so the Dexters, the farm that we bought right down the road, Crest Point Farms, they do only Dexters and then Kuni pigs. And so I've had their beef and it's just fabulous. So
yeah. Have you gotten to the point that you're being able to sell beef directly to the consumer?
We have. It's so exciting. Oh, yeah. We were able to find a very local harvester and they're USDA certified. So not only can we sell, to our local community, we can go, anywhere. We could go across state lines if we wanted to. We could ship it if we want to. But I tell you what, I cannot hold on to it long enough to get it shipped. So
that was my next question. How is the consumer reacting to it?
It is fantastic. The price point, I try to stay in a reasonable price point. Also, we're in California, so my price point is probably going to shock you. The ground is probably between $12 and $15 a pound, direct to consumer.
Oh, yes.
And then, anywhere up there, I think the highest cut that we sold was, filet at like $28 a pound. So that's something, we have a farmer's market that we go to, but I'll be honest, that's a lot of work to huck the meat over there and keep it safe and all that stuff. But I go in order to interact with my community. It's just a fantastic place to get to know your neighbors. But most of our direct to consumer sales is within our own database. As soon as we have product, then we go straight out, or even before we have product, we go straight out to our consumers and they prepay and then I get to meet up with them and hand them the meat. It's the best feeling.
Oh, yes. Now, with your farmer's market, and you said when you get ready to have some meat available, you reach out to your database. Are those customers that originated in the farmer's market, or did you acquire them somewhere else?
Some of them are, for sure. When we go to the farmer's market, we take the information and then they stay in our, what's going on loop. And, right. But the rest of it, honestly, it's my people, the group of friends and family that I have, and then they expand to their groups of friends and family. Everybody is very supportive. And also there's a heavy duty market for nutrition and people who are into functional nutrition and biohacking. And I kind of jump into those environments as well. I feel pretty comfortable. I have I don't exactly have the certification, but I am a functional nutrition counselor and in terms of knowledge. And so there's a whole group of people there that just see it for the nutrition aspect.
When you think about this group of people, was there some unfair advantage you had to reach them? For example, and here's what I'm thinking about. If you go to a chiropractor and he's very much on this, were you able to share his audience to build it even bigger? Or was there a health food store or someone in your network that caused you to really help you grow?
Yeah, I think that not just the professionals, but the individual people. Any customer that I have, I stay in contact with them. I give them recipes. They share recipes with me. I share those recipes with other people. So I think the unfair advantage would be the networking. I'm small enough to be able to actually personally touch all of my customers. If there's even 1,000 of them, I can touch them all through, good marketing. So the unfair advantage definitely would be our marketing systems and the vision on how we want to treat those customers.
So when you think about your marketing system, is that mainly email medium to get to them? Or are you using text? Do you have software on the back end that would benefit other people?
Yeah, most of our marketing is through social media, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And so, yes, there are some things that you can do to systematize how you're contacting people. I use something like a ClickFunnels where there's a lead magnet and they draw in another in our database, right? And then now that I have a database that's, I don't know what it is right now, it's probably over 1,000 people. It's definitely over 1,000 people. Then I can say, oh, well, I have a thought, an idea, and I just send it to the database so they can understand what our process is. If we're moving, I can do a quick little video of happy cows eating tall green grass and send it out and be like, this is where your dinner came from.
Yes.
And they love that. They love to feel included in our whole process.
Right. Because you want to feel, you want to be included. You want to feel valued.
Yeah.
Yes. All that's so important. Now, one thing besides your cattle, you've got goats. Are you marketing goat meat as well?
That certainly was in the marketing plan. We did it. And it is not in as high demand as the beef.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not that it's not moving. It's just, I think we're at a point where if we were to sell live goat, we would probably come out penciling higher profit margin.
Oh, yes.
But here's the other piece, and this is something that we talked about last time, is that our goats function in multiple different ways. Yes, they have meat that we can sell, and we do, but they also provide fire abatement for us locally, on our own ranch in places that the cows, there's no chance that they could graze there. And we have to not, like I said, we're in silvopasture. And so we've got lots of oak forests around our house, and we need to be sure that that's grazed down and the cows will not do it. And so they do that for us. But then again, they also go out and graze the local neighborhoods as well. And that's something that we really find wonderful, because when we run out of, traditional forage for them, then the neighbor picks up and they're making a little bit of money doing it. So not only do I not have to feed them, but they are a revenue stream. And it's something that my kids get involved with. My kids are now 2 years older each, or it's almost 3 years older, each one of them. So now my youngest is 12 and he comes out. So does my middle, who's 14. He comes out, they both do, and help me build fence and talk to the customers, clients, friends, neighbors, whatever you want to call them, our community. And so they see us as a functioning family, right? I think that's really important.
And so many important lessons they're getting by going out there and talking to your clients, because they are, but also the community and just doing the work. There's so many advantages to that. And I think it's important you bring up, the goats there's more to their value. Well, let me jump back just a little bit. When we think about cattle and we think about the ecosystem And we're trying to operate cattle a lot of times as that keystone grazer in the ecosystem. Goats have a very vital role to play depending on your environment and stuff, but especially in California with the fires. Goats are very valuable just from that aspect. So they don't have to just be a meat product in the end.
Right. And while I love the meat that the goats produce, I've found that in our specific marketplace, there's a lot of want for goat meat. However, the cultures that want the goat meat need it halal. And what that means is it has to be killed in a very specific way, which of course is not USDA certified. So I run into the issue of, yes, I have customers who want the goat meat, but I can't harvest it the way that they want me to. So I can sell definitely to them live, but then that presents a problem as well, because I like to be involved in the whole thing and I want to know where my animals go, all the time. So I like to kind of keep them around and keep them part of our grazing herd. And so now they go out, they're on a job right now. They will be transferring on Friday to another job. And so it's a really wonderful service that I can provide to the community, which keeps everybody safer.
Oh, yeah. Let's dive a little bit more into that service. First, have you found there's been a large customer base for it? People are interested in it. They're wanting it. And then how's the process go for you to get that set up for your goats to go over there and to put your goats there and then remove them? Yeah,
sure. It's a very deep customer base that wants it. So we're in Northern California, I said, in Browns Valley, which is rolling grassy hills with a whole bunch of oak trees. And everybody has that. And it's hilly. So, and there's rocks in the hills. And so you're not really, the whole neighborhood and the whole community doesn't want anybody to be wheat eating or none of that stuff, because you cause sparks and you start fires. So if we hear mowing, or if we hear someone trying to manually take care of their property, everyone's like, stop it. You're going to cause a fire. And it's true. It happens. So not only is the environment capable of going up in flames, it's also really difficult to manage as just a human person, because you're not really supposed to be mowing. So, you have to understand that we have oak trees that are, 20, 30, 50 feet tall. And underneath that, we have dry grass that's 4 or 5 feet tall. So you put one tiny little spark in there, the grass catches, then the trees go, right? So you have to get rid of the grass. You have to get rid of the low hanging branches and all that stuff. And so that's why people, they can't do it themselves. Plus it would cost too much. So, So I put out an ad, not even an ad, just a social media post. Hey, I got goats. They're ready to go for you. And they're booked. And then I have to put people on a wait list because I can't service everybody at the same time.
Oh, yes.
So the constraint for that is it's hyper local. I can't take them, more than 20 miles from our place, because I have to go check on them every day because they're goats. And when you do goat things, now I run them in an electrostop net. So they're in electricity, and I run them in Posneg, which something we talked about last time. I could not do it with just a positive netting. Our ground is way too dry. We're not able to have a good ground, through the animal. And also because they're so temporary and moving, not only are they moving from our place to somewhere else, but on that other property, they're moving regularly. So I have to be close enough to move them. And I can't sink a ground into someone else's property. So I can't put, a 6-foot grounding rod there. I have to rely on the fence itself. So we run Posneg, which, man, what a game changer.
Yep. What size Energizer are you running on that?
It depends on how big the spot is, but usually it's the one, I'm not sure exactly what the the number on it is, but I can hook about 7 of our netting fences together and run them on that. That seems a little too big as far as the goats. There's only 27 goats. And so they need to be in a little bit small. Yeah, they need to be in a little bit smaller area. So usually about 4 netting lines, and each line is 164 feet. So
yes.
I don't know what the math is on that.
And I hear from people, some people, they have problems getting that netting hot enough because, well, for one, it's coming in contact with a lot of grass. I use it. I have it. I don't have the pause native. I just
That's the key.
Regular. And it works for me, and I can keep it hot enough. But I hear from a lot of people, they can't keep it hot enough. And I wonder, on the pause neg, if you can get by with a little bit smaller energizer versus one that's going to have to go back to the ground rods that you've got in the ground somewhere. And for me, those ground rods are a half mile, 3/4 of a mile away from where I have the netting set up.
Right. How do you run from the ground rod to the net?
I don't run. Well, my energizer is set on high tensile wire.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that runs down, and then I put a poly reel that runs from my high tensile feeder line to my netting, and then my netting.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great setup for a permanent rotation location, right?
Right, because I've got the high tensile set up there permanently. Yeah. I've got my energizer. I've got a big energizer, solar panel. I've got 4 permanent ground rods in the ground there.
Right.
You're in a wet area, so I was able to pick the ideal spot for those ground rods.
Perfect.
In my environment right there.
Great. And that makes absolute sense. And so your positive only netting will probably be just fine. For us, obviously, I can't set up that situation when I go to I don't even want to set up that situation at my place, because where we move, there's a expansive area. And so I would have to, I don't even know how I would do that. It would be very difficult to connect it all. So that's why the pause neg is, it's an absolute game changer. It costs a little bit more. I think it's like $220 per net, panel. I think you have 13 panels of probably 8 foot each. So it's 164 feet. And I think we pay about $220 each. So once you've made that investment, then all the rest of that stuff just falls away. You don't have to do any ground rods. You just go and you set up the charger, which is solar. So it's just a little unit that we set up, and we connect to the positive and we connect to the negative, and off you go. And so we're getting, that line, you touch 2 of those lines, you don't want to do that again.
Right.
And the goats,
that's the goal.
Exactly. The goats are very broke to it. But more importantly, especially in our area, we have coyotes all the time. We have mountain lions. Yeah. We even have some black bear. We don't have wolves yet. Hopefully they'll stay a little more in the wild areas. But what we do have is local dogs. Here I am bringing my goats to another ranch where I don't have control over those pet dogs. Right. So, So the netting is just, I couldn't do it without it. There's no way.
Are you running any livestock guardian animals with your goats, or they're just protected enough in that netting?
They are protected, knock on wood.
Right. Yes. To this point, yeah. Yeah.
Up until this point, we have had 0 depredation of any kind. And so, and I have little baby kids out there. They kid out in the netting. And it's just to watch a dog touch it for the first time kind of breaks my heart, because it is not comfortable, and they don't do that again. So
it breaks my heart when I touch it.
Me too.
Ouch. But yes, and I've had the same experience with my netting, except I do have 2 dogs out with my animals in netting, partly because I want a dog with that flock.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I got 2 puppies and they want to come to the house, and I don't want them at the house.
No.
I want them out there. So this has solved the problem of them coming to the house if we can just get that ingrained in them, that the job is not here at the house.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I don't know. Well, mostly because I don't run livestock guardian dogs, but yes, you're keeping them in as well. And that's a major issue with livestock guardian dogs, is keeping them where they're supposed to be. But that net really is something special. In our local area, there's lots of people who have pet goats, and lots of people who have their pet goats depredated on by something, go missing. And I wish I could say to everyone, hey, you got to get some netting.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I say it to anyone who will listen, but it's certainly an important thing, and it's kept our goats very safe.
Now, one common complaint I hear about the netting is it's a lot of work. Do you have any tips or tricks that help ease that burden of moving the netting and getting it set up?
Oh, boy. I sure wish I did. I mean, there's a certain way that I pick it up. I pick it up and run kind of like an accordion. I'll pick up the first line, go to the next one, and then accordion the rest of it and drag it. I'll be honest with you. My daughter has a couple of electrical engineering friends, and I'm telling them that they need to build me single panels that attach to each other like a daisy chain, because I don't want to drag this thing around anymore.
Yes.
I'm so tired of it. And then, the other tip and trick is, get young, strong help.
Yes. I got one of those winders.
Yeah.
Or twisty things, which actually it's working pretty good. I'm liking it. But I just bought some new electric netting, and I actually bought it and thought, when I get it, I'm cutting it in half. So I have two 80-foot sections.
Yeah.
To be honest, it didn't happen. I don't have it cut in half, but I did buy the extra PO. So, because as I was figuring out, I'm like, I'm going to need another PO to do that. And I haven't done that yet, but that's been my thoughts. Smaller pieces to make it a little bit more manageable at times. And I don't know if that's the answer, but I've had the same thought as well.
Yeah, when I get that made, when we get the prototype, I will come back and let you know.
Oh, okay.
I tell you what, every time I deal with that netting, I'm like, I'm going to reinvent this. I'm going to redesign it. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was looking at horse fencing. So many people have these portable corrals. I'm like, and then they had a goat one. And I just did this yesterday on the website. Something popped up and I went and looked. And the goat was just PVC pipe that was made into a fence for goat. I'm like, okay, that doesn't work for me. But I was thinking, how could those panels be made to work a little bit easier and move around and stuff with the paneling on it or the netting on it? But
interesting.
I don't have a solution, but it looks like there's a problem out there hunting a solution.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Like I said, I have my little electrical engineers working on it. I'll let you know.
Oh, very good. Very good. Let's jump and talk about your grazing management.
Yeah.
When you were on the podcast 28 months ago, you all were doing adaptive grazing. You'd been doing it for a year or two at that point. How has that gone for you? Have you made any changes to your grazing management?
Yes. So it is moving right along, and the difference in the species that we see coming up is it's phenomenal. Before, we had a lot of really low growing, non-heavy duty forage annuals that were coming up and just turning into seed immediately. And now we have hayed a little bit, so that there are some, there's some grain that's coming up from the hay, but we're finding grasses that are, over my head as they come up. So it's so exciting. And when we take the video of what it used to be and what it is now, it's just spectacular. The one thing, my original goal was to not provide irrigation and not have.
Oh, yeah.
So to just graze what we've got. Well, I've kind of shifted away from that. And now we're working on providing irrigation for the resting pastures, because I can provide such a greater quantity and quality of forage if we put some water on it throughout the dry season. Again, our hot and dry typically comes in around 110, 112. And so even if your grass is 6 feet tall, it's going to go brown by the time we get through summer. So that's something that we shifted where, my vision was to not have any inputs. And my reality is I need to feed my animals. So we're going to go with water as an input.
And how are you getting the water to the ground?
Right now we have a set of irrigation sprinklers that we're using, and it's a struggle. What I found is that I have these different sections, and I will focus on one section and solve the problem for that one within my budget, within my time, within my ability, right? So if I need to run a PVC line and then run faucets off the PVC line and do it that way, if I just need to run hose, then that would be the next step. The main vision would be, of course, PVC entrenched in the whole area with big sprinkler, impact sprinklers that go across the whole thing.
And you're running, are you using well water with that?
This is actually irrigation district water.
Oh,
so
okay.
we have a combination. Our well is fantastic. I mean, we get 60 gallons per minute. But it costs us money to run that well, right? And so electricity-wise, we don't have a solar panel yet. Of course, that's in the vision. Take out those kind of inputs. I don't want to put financial inputs into grazing, but so we're doing a combination where we can reach the irrigation water. Fantastic. We have to supplement with the well water where we can.
And with the irrigation water, do you have a contract to get so much of that water, or how's that work for you?
Yeah, you can buy a certain diameter in what they will offer you. And so it's just a matter of the infrastructure of coming off of that and spreading it. And the way that our property is, we have elevation change in our property. So ideally, I'd like to run the water up to the top, somehow hold it up there, whether we're going to install a pond or something and then filter it down or just let it trickle down. But right now, we just got to start where we're at.
Right. And that's the important thing. Wherever you are, that's where you got to start at.
Exactly.
No matter where your dreams are. And we talked about goals earlier, you got to start where you are to even have a chance of getting there.
You do. So starting where you're at, but then also having wildly large goals, I think is important because that, for me, this work that we do, I mean, it is grueling, right? Every step you take sometimes hurts. So why are we doing it? Certainly is not to get rich. It's because
right. Yes.
It's because there's a higher purpose. For me, when I sit down with my family and I talk about what is the purpose of Chantilly Ranch, and our purpose is to be the largest regenerative ag ranch in the state, the country, the world, whatever it is. And how do we define that? It would be the most number of acres influenced by regenerative practices.
Oh, yeah.
The most number of head, whether it's cattle or pigs or whatever it is, and the highest profit margin, right? So the more acres we can impact, the better influence we have on the actual environment, right? We know this with regenerative ag, right?
Right.
And the more head we influence, the more nutrition we can provide to our community. And the higher profit margin, this is huge for regen. I mean, it's huge for everybody, but if we don't make any money, we can't move forward. Like, we have to be able to make a living for ourselves and then be able to go out and invest in our community. So the profit margin part, those three pieces, acres, head, and profit, that's our goal. And
to be honest, I think that profit part, I think there's a lot of schools out there about the business of ranching now that didn't used to be there, but that profit portion is the portion that sometimes gets overlooked, because even if you've got an off-the-farm job and you're doing this, maybe you consider it a hobby, it should still be profitable. If you want it to last any time, you've got to make money on it.
Right, absolutely. And, I have 3 kids, and I really want this life that I've created, my parents have created, and now I would really like to be able to hand it to them. But I tell you what, they're not going to come and do it for free. They need to provide,
right.
They need to see that there's a level of success here that will get them moving forward. They have huge goals as well. And so as long as I make my goals big enough, then they can come in and carry their goals within mine.
Oh, yeah.
but it's creating that vision that sometimes I find challenging, although I am a kind of big vision person. Sometimes I'll limit myself in the vision. And then especially my daughter will be like, hey, can we go bigger? I'm like, yes, we can.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think you mentioned on the last episode, your oldest was going to college and she had a passion for horses.
Yep.
Are you all doing anything with horses now?
Yes, we are. So she is all done with school, and true to the, if you build it, they will come. She is home now. So she is running her business, her horse training business at home with us.
Oh, yes.
Which is just,
very good.
I mean, I don't think that as parents, we design a life where we want our children to come home and live on our couch, right? But that's not at all what she's doing. She is home and she's running her business. And as a family, we are supporting her. And as a business, she's supporting the family. And so my heart is full.
Oh, yes. Just having your kids close by, family close by is so nice.
It's a blessing.
Yeah, one of our daughters lives about 3 hours away. I just want them to move back closer all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm getting worried. They've been there long enough. I think they're entrenched enough. Their kids are going to want to stay in the area. And I'm like, no, come back here where all the family is.
Yeah. And I think, that is something that many of us parents, as we watch them come up and become their own people, if we are very particular about creating an opportunity for them in our own opportunity, then at least we have a better chance, right? You can't get them all.
Right.
But certainly you can create the opportunity. But if you're not profitable, there's nothing there, Right.
And if they've seen you're working yourself to death also.
That's true.
Like, why do I want to come back and do that?
Yeah. And that's succession wise. I mean, that happened with my dad as well. He watched his dad have a profitable, wonderful dairy business in Michigan, and he worked himself nearly to death. And so that was not something that my dad was interested in picking up. Like, why? Why would I choose to work, 14, 16 hours a day and not have the freedom that kind of work would provide you? So it's definitely something that we consider. Every choice that we make, we're trying to build that legacy that will make a space for our kids. I don't care what they want to do. I have one that's much more into marketing and sales, and he loves the art of the deal, right? So I have a place for him. He can help me with our sales department, and he does. He's 14. So he's seeing that. And then I have a little guy who's 12 and he just wants to weld things and and so there's a place for him there too. Right. And then my daughter, who is 19, she's got her entire philosophy set and she's training horses and they're fantastic. And we need those too.
Oh, very good. Yes. Before we switch gears just a little bit, anything else you'd like to add about your farm before we change gears?
I think that we're kind of leaning towards adding some form of pork endeavor as well.
Oh, okay.
We have one area that is really steep forest area, and the cattle don't want to go in there. The goats kind of don't even want to go in there. And so I'm thinking that that's a good place to start some sort of pig program. So we'll see.
Right. Have you heard from consumers about pork, or is it just something as you think about your environment that might work there?
Yeah, that's actually the spark that caused me to open my mind to that. I don't know much about pork or pig husbandry, right? But as we sit at the farmer's market, as we market our goat meat, the question consistently comes back, do you have pork?
Oh, yes.
And so the answer is no. And boy, I don't like saying no to people.
Right, because you're obviously seeing there's a demand for it if they're asking for it.
Yes. And then that combined with your other question, environmentally, I have some sections of the property that can't be addressed by the species that we have. And so it's seeming like it's going to make sense. I just need to figure out the fencing and whatnot.
Oh, yes. Yeah. There's always hurdles to overcome, figure out, and move on with.
Yeah.
Yeah. At Redmond, we know that you thrive when your animals do. That's why it's essential to fill the gaps in your herd's nutrition with the minerals that they need. Made by nature, our ancient mineral salt and conditioner clay are the catalyst in optimizing the nutrients your animals get from their forage. Unaltered and unrefined, our minerals have the natural balance and proportion that your animals prefer. This gives your herd the ability to naturally regulate their mineral consumption as they graze. Our minerals won't just help you improve the health of your animals, but will also help you naturally build soil fertility so you can grow more nutrient-dense pasture year after year. Nourish your animals, your soil, and your life with Redmond. Learn more at redmondagriculture.com. Well, Dana, it is time we switch to our overgrazing section. And for our overgrazing section, we're going to take you into a deeper dive into some aspect of your ranch. And actually, we're going to talk about infinite banking today, which to me is very interesting. I don't know much about it. I do see the ads for banking without the bank.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Farming without the bank. Yeah.
Yeah. And then infinite banking. I see some stuff on Facebook and stuff, but introduce me to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really interesting concept that I actually came on because my daughter, who is turning 20 years ago, I got myself term life insurance and have, a policy where if something happens to me, then it goes to the rest of the family and everybody moves on financially anyway. Right. But of course, being that she's turning 20, that term policy expires. And so faced with this idea of not having a death benefit to provide for them, I was getting pretty anxious. And so I went out in search of more term life or some sort of death benefit that I could provide. And that's where I came across infinite banking. So the concept with infinite banking is that you, in the purchase of a death benefit, you do it with whole life insurance, which gives you a permanent policy. So it doesn't expire. That was one of the main things for me, as I didn't want to buy another 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
Because in 20 years, I won't be able to buy another 20. In 20 years, I'll be uninsurable. And so I went out and was able to get a permanent policy, which gives me the death benefit, but it also gives me a place to store cash value. So I can buy the death benefit, and then there's this cash that I can put into that policy. That's the part that we solve for if we're talking about what do we do with our money. So many of us we don't have regular monthly income, right? We have these ups and downs, these influxes of cash because we went to the barn, or we have need for butchering services. And so we have to outlay a bunch of cash. And what I wanted to do was create a place where I could hold that money and gain interest on it. And that's what a whole life policy does. It gives you the ability to store your cash while you're buying your death benefit and then let it grow with compounding interest. So it took me some time to understand the process. The other really important piece is that when you store your cash value, you're now allowed contractually, you're allowed to borrow against that. And when you do that, you're actually earning money beyond what the interest rate that you're paying. So for example, in my contract, I have a 3% compounding interest, and contractually I'm allowed to borrow at 4%. And you'd think that those two pieces wouldn't add up, but they do. Somebody who's a nerd, go out and look at the compounding interest versus amortized schedule. If you put in, let's say $10,000, if I have $10,000 in my cash value and I am earning 3% on that money, and then I go and borrow against it, I don't actually take it out, I just borrow against it, and I'm paying 4%. The amount of interest that I earn at 3% outpaces the loan that I take at 4%. I gain more money. I know it doesn't seem like it should, but it does. So I can sit and come back and talk to you more about that. I know the look on your face is like, wait a minute, how is that possible? But it's true. Go look.
Right. Trying to figure out how that's possible. And to be honest, so I go back 20 years ago and I purchased term life,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I also purchased a small whole life policy.
Wonderful.
Because I wanted both covered. And then as I learned more or maybe listen to these financial experts, they're like, term life, don't buy whole life. And,
Yes.
Dave Ramsey
Yes.
and some others are like that. So I've often thought, I messed up in buying that whole life, but I have it, so I'm going to keep it. Well, just recently, I heard or saw something that I could take out a loan
Yes,
against.
sir.
So I
Yes.
looked into it, and I was able to. So I pulled a loan out of there that's cheaper than if I went and got a personal loan. And of
Absolutely.
course, so that's causing me to think, wait, I've heard my whole time I should be doing term life. But now this whole life has this benefit. So it opens me up to the possibility, what am I missing there? And should I be looking at that through another lens? And also the next question, as you mentioned a while ago, in 20 years, how insurable will I be? But is it too late for me to increase what I'm doing there? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Lots of thoughts for you to go with.
Absolutely. So I too heard my whole life, buy term and invest the rest. That's the message, right?
Yes.
It's like saying rent an apartment and go spend your money on cars, as opposed to buy a house and let your equity grow for you. That's what a whole life policy does. And you are absolutely right in saying that you can borrow against it. Your contract, when you signed your whole life insurance policy, they gave you a percentage that your cash will earn and a percentage that you can borrow. So let me just give you, I have a number here. If I have 10,000 in a compounding interest account, like a whole life insurance policy, and it's earning 3%, it just sits there and it earns, let's say over 5 years, it's going to value $11,000, almost $600. So it's going to earn me $1,592, $1,600.
Oh, yeah, 1,600, yeah.
Okay. Now, if I take that same 10,000 and I borrow it at 4%, which is probably somewhere around what your whole life policy has, you have to look at the numbers, but they always do it so that it's going to your interest that you're earning is going to outpace your borrowing. So if I take that 10,000 and I borrow it at 4% over 5 years, the total of interest that I'm going to pay, it's only $1,049. So what happens is when I end up paying it back, I'm going to pay $11,049. But my money earned me $11,592. I'm in the positive by $543.
So let me see if I can put that in words how that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got your 10,000 in there and it's earning that interest,
Yep.
It's the whole amount the whole time. That 10,000 is staying in there.
That's right.
Whereas when you're paying back money, you start with that 10,000, but when you pay a little bit, the amount goes down. So the 4% is not over the 10,000 the whole time.
Exactly.
It's over whatever the principal balance is, and that's decreasing over time.
That's decreasing over time. You got it. And also, let's go back to the 10,000 that's earning 3%. That's increasing all the time. So you're not earning the 3% on the 10,000. You're earning the first year, it's 10,000 plus 300. And then the next year, it's 10,300 plus another, whatever the percentage is. So if you really want to get geeky about it, literally sit down with a compounding calculator and an amortized calculator and compare. So as long as your interest, there's a ratio there, like 3% earning and 4% amortized, you're going to net positive. And that's the piece. It literally took me probably 12 months to actually understand that I could use my money and earn more while I'm utilizing it. So now, like my daughter's business, for example, she doesn't have regular income, right? What she does is she purchases baby horses, 2.5, 3-year-old horses. She trains them and she sells them. So every time she purchases a horse, there's a big outlay. She's got to spend up to $10,000. But every time she sells a horse, now she's bringing in $15,000 or $20,000. So every time she does anything with her money, she runs it through the whole life policy. So she buys additional death benefit. My baby daughter, who's 20 years old, has death benefit that she could pass on to somebody. She doesn't have any heirs right now, but she will in the future. So we're thinking multiple generations ahead. And that's part, I mean, doesn't that just dovetail perfectly with regenerative ag? You can't think about just now. You have to think about, okay, my kids' kids and their kids' kids, and what is the land going to be growing? Same thing with money. You have to set multiple generations up for success in the future.
Right. Yeah. And I completely agree with that, because part of our goal in doing this is to leave it better off when we're gone.
That's it.
And yeah, so I still, as I think about this, it'll take me a while to wrap my brain around this, but one thing I mentioned earlier, your daughter's 20, so it makes sense to me when I think about, because when you think about investing, and if you're 20 and you put $100 in a year, time is your friend.
Yes, sir.
And when you hit my age, $100 is not going to do near as much because I don't have near as much time.
That's right.
So for the whole life or doing infinite banking, does it make sense at a later age to do that? Or is that just something for young people?
Good question. You know the adage, what's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago?
So
right?
often I say this.
Yeah. I mean, so start where you're at. Again, with regenerative ag, no matter what your pasture looks like, that's what you start with. That's true for us too. The question here, though, is, are you insurable? That's the question.
Oh, yes.
So many of us get to a place where we're no longer insurable. So in terms of age, the younger we are, the more insurable we are, and the less our premiums cost.
Right. And I've talked about this on the podcast before, my wife's health battle. I'm not sure she's insurable at this point. It would depend. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's certainly something, find an agent that you trust and most importantly, understands the infinite banking concept, because it's not a product, right? It's not the whole life policy. You had your whole life policy for how long? And didn't do anything, right? And so it's the way that we use it is the infinite banking. So if you find an agent who really understands that, and when I was looking to replace my term policy, I went and interviewed, I don't know, 5 or 6 different agents who all said that they understood the infinite banking concept, but I asked them to explain it to me and they couldn't. I finally found one who really understood it, and it was clear that she knew more than I did. And so that was the person that I chose to go with. And then, I understand it, so I move forward in my own way. So it's important that you find the right advisor, because there's all sorts of different ways of setting it up. Whole life is the way. There's indexed universal life. That's not the way. There's variable life. That's not the way. There's lots of ways to do it right and lots of ways to do it wrong. But if you get it going, I mean, basically what you're doing is you're solving your own financing problem in terms of, if you take a loan from somewhere else, like you were saying that your whole life policy, you could get a loan that's way less in terms of interest rate from any other, I think prime right now is like 7.5%. So you're, as a personal loan, a car loan, or any loan that you could get, you're going to get 7.5 plus whatever index they're increasing. So with your whole life policy, you can avoid paying outside interest. It's something I wish someone had come to me when I was 20 and slapped me in the face and said, okay, do this. Because I too had a life insurance policy, a whole life policy that was generated by one of the places that I worked, and I didn't know how to use it. It was just sitting there the whole time. It provided a death benefit, but I wasn't using it properly. So to answer the question in terms of age, the only thing you can do is just check and see. Go, find an agent and go and get the application submitted and see if you're insurable. If you're not, they'll tell you. Or if you're insurable at higher rates, they'll tell you, you'll be able to figure that out. And then when you do get the whole life policy in place, then make sure that you're using it properly and that you're funding it and then taking advantage of it.
2 questions on that. The first one, on whole life policies, are they all the same?
They are very similar. There are a good chunk of companies that have been around for a really long time. And they make sure that their interest rate that they're letting your money compound at versus the interest rate that you can borrow, again, your compounding is going to outpace. So there's a few different companies, and most of the policies that they offer are the same. How the agent writes it is highly customizable. So, for example, if we're going to do a life insurance policy where I want 60% to go to base to buy me my death benefit, I want 40% to go to cash value so I can borrow against it. So there's 2 components there, and how the agent writes it is going to be specific to you. So that's the piece. You have to find the agent that can help you.
Now, before I go in deeper on that, well, actually, no. Let's go ahead and follow that thought. You said it's important how they write it. Some of them goes to death benefit and the other to additional.
So it would be additional cash value. So your death benefit, yeah, your base that let's say it's $100 a month that you're putting in goes to base. It buys you a certain amount of death benefit. Then you can add additional cash into it. Maybe you want to put another $100 in. That's going to go directly into your cash value. That is where you get to borrow against. So it buys you an additional amount of death benefit, but in primarily it goes to your cash value. And that's where you get to have your banking system.
And that's where you could decrease the amount of time you need to wait before you can pull a loan out against.
Absolutely. And also increase the amount of money that's earning your 3%. So if you're adding cash into it, we call it paid up additions. You're paying up additional death benefit and putting cash value into your account. That's where you begin to really start to earn that 3% and it's compounding. So essentially, as we flesh out our whole life policies, we'll have multiple policies on ourselves. So you had to ask the question, should you get more? Yes, I think you should. You flesh out your whole life policies. My kids have it. And then that gives me more space to put cash value into these accounts. So our goal is to run all of our income through those cash value accounts. And so it goes in, it sits, it's earning 3%. And then when we have an expenditure, we go in and borrow against ourselves. And we've already proven that borrowing against it is actually profitable. So I can do that over and over as long as I'm acting like a bank and I'm paying myself back and I'm not just taking the loans and then not paying myself back. That's not how, that's how you...
Because that's an option. Like with mine, if I did not have to start a payment plan or anything with it.
Exactly.
Because if it's not paid off at my death,
yep,
it just comes out of...
will pay it off.
Yes, the death benefit will pay it off, right?
Exactly. That is an option. But now if we're talking about a banking system where we want to be profitable, we want to leave money for our children, let's not eat it from our loans, right? Let's treat it like it's a regular loan and pay ourselves back. That's where your agent comes in, right? Because if you've written a policy, they've written a policy for you, and then you've taken a loan against it, and your agent says, okay, now set up a payment plan, and I'm going to check with you and make sure. She can't force you to pay yourself back, but she can remind you and say, hey, this is part of your long-term plan. Make sure that you get this paid back.
Right. Yeah. One thing you talked about additional whole life plans. And I mentioned earlier, I have some term life.
Yes.
As I look at the term life, would it be more beneficial for me? And I know this is going to be very case specific, but as a general rule, would it be more beneficial to take those premiums I'm paying into those term life and discontinue those and move it to a whole life policy?
Potentially, right? Let's look at when your term is going to expire.
Yes.
Obviously, there's an end date there anyway, right?
Right.
And sometimes that term is convertible. So instead of having to reinsure, you can just convert. which is great because if for some reason you're less insurable now than when you wrote that term, and you probably are because that was a while ago, right?
I was a couple decades younger, so
Yeah.
probably so.
So
Yeah.
probably so. You're a little less insurable now. Not to say that you're not insurable. It's just if it would be something that you would want to do a review and look in and see if you could convert it. If you could, that would be fantastic. And then this is something we do for our kids as well. So I would highly recommend looking into getting them policies because they are very insurable and very cheap. And now you've got them set up. So this is what I do for my two little guys, my 12-year-old and my 14-year-old. I put the onus on them paying premiums on them. So my 14-year-old has a $50 per month premium that he pays into. So he goes to work and he figures out a way every month to make $50. And then he puts it into his premium. So now I'm creating this cycle for him that I'm going to go to work and I'm not going to spend it. I'm going to save it. Okay. And so now it's adding, he just has a teeny tiny little death benefit. It's hardly anything at all. And his cash value is very small. So it's not going to earn tons and tons of money, but it's going to earn the same percentage as mine does. And he now knows how to do that. So when he's 50, he will have hopefully taught his children. And again, here we go. Future generations. We can't just do it and expect them to know how to do it. We have to teach them. So my littler son, he's got a small policy. I think he is on the hook for $25 a month. So he literally stands on the curb and sells lemonade in order to fund his policy, which is just his savings account, right? He has such a small death benefit, but I'm teaching him how to take care of himself in the future. And then, of course, my daughter, she's got a policy and she uses it much more heavily to fund her horse expenses and then earn the interest on it.
Dana, let me look through this because I wrote down some questions ahead of time because I knew I was out of my depth on this.
It's pretty interesting.
Well, I did just researching it.
Yeah.
I have, is it Nelson?
Yep. R. Nelson Nash.
I have his book in my Amazon cart because I'm like, this is interesting. And to be honest, when I've heard about this in the past, it sounds scammy to me or questionable. And I'm like, and so I refuse to even talk about it. Yeah. But as I'm gaining more information, I'm like, wait, I may need to look deeper into this.
Yeah. It took me, especially when we were indoctrinated with the buy term and invest the rest.
Right.
Right. There was another component that happened for me, and it's an ongoing thing. My parents have a 401k that's heavily invested in the market, and that's what they live off of. They don't have insurance. They don't have, it's just the income that is coming off of that 401k, which has been good to them. But as I talk with them, I realized that back in 2008, their 401k literally got cut in half. It absolutely tanked. And the only reason that they were able to retire is because the company that my dad worked for made up the difference. Like, that's absolutely unheard of. He lost probably almost $400,000 in that account, and they fixed it for him. So thank goodness. But that's not something that the buy term and invest the rest. That's what my dad did. He invested the rest and lost half of it. Like, to say that 2008 is going to happen again is almost to be 100% correct, right? With the correction in our markets will happen. It happens all the time. And so the other piece of it is that, my dad now is 80 years old and I watch him watch the market to see if he's going to get paid. And that doesn't feel good at all. So when instead of buying term and investing the rest, I'm educating my kids to save your money in this. It's not a sexy interest rate. 3% is not super exciting, but it never, ever loses. It's guaranteed. It never goes down at all. So it just sits there and it just keeps adding. It's very boring. That's kind of how you want your banking to be, boring, right? Because we're not riding a wave of excitement when the interest rates go up, because they don't. They just stay exactly where they're at. They also never fall. And so that's the piece. Now, it's not to say that you couldn't, if you wanted to put your cash value into a whole life policy, borrow against it, and then go invest it, you absolutely can. And you probably should. As long as you know what you're doing in terms of investing, you can really add. Because remember, we already determined that when you borrow against it and pay it back properly, you're in the profit, right?
Right.
And that's just for the use of the money. So now if you took the money out and you were able to gain an investment and have some income off of it, now you're really in the profit. So it just depends on what you do with it. There's a pain point for me watching my parents watch the market to see if their money is going to last long enough until they die. That is heartbreaking. I would much rather them never look at the market, just go outside and play with the cows and know that when they die, there's money coming to the grandkids. They don't know that there's money coming to the grandkids. They have to die before it runs out. And it's brutal to say it like that, but that's the reality. There's no death benefit. So buy term and invest the rest. Your term is going to expire. And then what? Were you a good enough investor to be able to earn all of the money that you thought you were going to earn? I'm not.
Well, the huge thing there, we talked about consistency earlier, but the discipline to invest it every month.
Yes.
And then the discipline to not touch it ahead of time. Now, if you put it in one of those vehicles like a Roth IRA or a 1K, there's penalties to keep you from doing that.
Yeah.
But if you don't have it in one of those vehicles, then the temptation to touch it for whatever reason, I know we have stock, and over time we buy stock, just not in a vehicle, just out.
Just on your own. Yeah.
Yeah. And then at certain times in life, I've thought, well, I need some of that back. So I've sold stock. And to be honest, as I look back, I don't remember any one of those instances where I sold that stock and did something with the money that was memorable.
Right. Or that gained additional interest, right? I mean,
right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
I can't even think any time that I sold stock to buy cattle, which would make sense for me. But I think usually it's just we felt we needed it for something.
Sure.
I don't even know what.
Sure. And the problem with that is that, this compounding interest, as soon as you take money from the actual money from an account that's earning interest, you stop earning that interest. So you're right. It's the consistency. And so that's the little tiny lessons with the $25 for my younger son and the $50 per month with my older son. I want them to get into the habit of paying themselves first and just leaving it there. And I want them to spend money on the things that they want, and they can by taking out a cash value, a policy loan. But because they had to go through the process of saying, okay, I'm going to borrow money and I'm going to have to pay a little interest on that. What am I going to do with this money that's going to move me forward? It creates a thought process there versus just getting money. If you just take money and you spend it, then you don't necessarily have to think about what you're going to do with it to bring yourself back to above positive, right? So it's a philosophy. The infinite banking is a philosophy, but it matches so closely with how we function, day to day on the ranch that it just seems beautiful to me.
Oh yeah. Two questions on it. First one, what are the risks or downsides to doing this?
Yeah. The downside, I think the major downside is, are you insurable? It's not everyone can get it. And the other major downside is that you have a guaranteed interest rate that you're earning. And it's not sexy. It's only 3%, 4%, whatever your contract is. So if you're looking for 12, 19, 20% returns, you're not going to get them. However, it doesn't mean that you can't then borrow against your policy and go try to get them with that money. You certainly can, but that's the when people compare your internal rate of return, or they try to see, is this investment going to be a better investment than going into the stock market? And they have to consider it in terms of, it's like putting money into a savings account. It's not real exciting. And so that sometimes is looked at as one of the downsides, is that you can't gain a whole bunch of extra interest. To me, that comes with the major benefit is that I can't lose it. When I put money into
stable.
It's perfectly stable. And so those could be seen as some of the downside.
When you think about this, or when I hear about this, initial thought, or one of the initial thoughts is, I can do the same thing with a savings account.
Yeah.
If I was disciplined enough, I would each month put an amount in there. Once it grows so big, I could pull that money out or borrow against it to be my own bank in the same way.
Yeah.
Does that work, or is it something that whole life plan or whole life policy really benefits it?
That's a good question. You could go to, like, say, Bank of America, and you could try to find an account, a high interest rate.
Yeah, you need a high savings yield.
You'd have to find one. You have to really look for it. One that is guaranteed. A lot of these high interest rate savings accounts, they really do go up and down, right? It's not permanent. It's because they're riding the prime.
It's only for the first so many thousand in there too. You have to be careful about that.
Exactly.
On that.
And so
you've got others that are really low, but they'll get high yield once you hit a certain amount.
Right. You really need to look at your vehicle, right? So what we're talking about is an ideal savings tool. So you could go find a bank account that has a high, interest rate, and then you could go then back to that bank and ask them to borrow a loan, because if you take your money out, it
quits earning.
Exactly. So if you go then and say, okay, I would like now to get a loan that actually makes me pay less interest than the money that I'm actually earning in your account. So if you can find that, fantastic. But then you're looking for freedom and flexibility on the payments. Maybe you only want to pay interest only back. Maybe you don't want to pay any payments for a while. Maybe you want to have the flexibility, which I don't think any bank will allow you to do, right? And then the other piece, though, is that the money that you place into your savings account does not buy you any death benefit. So if you were, you put $10,000 into an interest-bearing savings account, let's say the next day you die, you have $10,000, but you don't have any. This is like a multiplier here. For every $10,000 we buy, we have this large amount of death benefit that then goes to our heirs. So, yes, the reality is it's the concept versus the tool. I really, really like the whole life policy tool as my ideal savings account, because it does those things. It gives me my interest. It gives me the ability to access those funds with, it's liquid. And then it has this death benefit that in case something happens to me, then all that money beyond what I was able to put in it goes to my family.
Oh, yeah. Dana, before we move to our famous four, anything else you would like to add on that? And also for our members of the Grazing Grass community, if you've got a question, you can post it. If Dana's not part of the community, she will be.
Yes, I believe I am.
I'd have to check. I don't remember for sure, but you probably are.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm open. And part of my vision in terms of having the most number of acres, right? Remember we talked about that's my vision as being the largest regenerative ag. I don't necessarily mean owning my own. I just mean influencing and helping to mentor other people. And I think obviously I can't do it all by myself, but I feel like mentorship is one of the major components of a good, thriving community that improves the place that we're at. And you said it before. I mean, what are we trying to do here? Leave it better than when we found it. So any questions, I'm open.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Dana, it's time we switch to the famous 4 questions. Same 4 questions we ask of all of our guests. And I know just recently, 28 months ago, you answered these questions, but we're going to go back through them.
That's great.
Just so you can append your answers or maybe even completely change them.
Yeah.
Our first question, what is your favorite grazing grass related book or resource?
Oh boy. I think I probably said holistic management at the time, and I'm going to say it again because it just so perfectly mimics our environment, right? We don't get rain all the time. And Alan Savory, he came from Africa. So our environment matches that. It's really hard for me to hear what Greg Judy is doing or what Joel Salatin is doing because it's just not the same environment. So when I'm talking about mentoring our own ranch and helping other regenerative ranchers in our area do what we're doing, I often revert to holistic context, the holistic management.
Excellent resource there.
Yeah.
Our second question, what's your favorite tool for the ranch?
Oh boy. I think last time I said the Wolverine, the ATV, and I'm going to say that again. Man, I'd be broke without it.
Yeah, those things really help you speed up the process of getting around and doing things.
Yeah, they really do. And they can also be kind of a lifesaver. We had to pull a calf recently, and that mama, she's got huge horns. And I used the ATV to throw the calf in the back and then hide from the mama who was trying to take me out. So I owe my life to that ATV.
Yeah, that was an unexpected use for it, but it worked well. Very good.
It really did, man. We were running circles around it. I picked up the calf, threw it in the back, kept running because mama was right behind me. And then the next time I came around, I jumped back in and off we went.
Our third question, what would you tell someone just getting started?
Wow. Get started. That there's so many reasons and errors and things that we can come up with that why we shouldn't do something, but just get started. Even if you're in your own backyard, if you're, you can create a situation where maybe you're running chickens or ducks. Ducks are fantastic, actually. You can do a lot in terms of trampling down the growing grass and providing a product that you don't have to butcher. Like duck eggs are amazing. And so just start somewhere and then open your mind, let the information come in and be a student.
I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and a lot of times I talk about analysis paralysis. We get in it and we don't take that step, and you just got to get started. And I'm going to butcher what he said on there because he says something about preparation, skip preparation, but that doesn't make sense because you need to prepare some, but get started. You got to take that action. Now I'm going to have to go back to that podcast and listen to what he said because when I heard it, I thought, oh, that's a saying I need to say if I can pronounce
preparation.
Preparation better.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly who you're referencing, but I would agree that you do need to do some preparation. But the reality is you don't know what you're preparing for until you've gotten into it. Yes. So get going and then assess and prepare for the next level.
And that podcast was Rethinking by Adam Grant. I really enjoy his podcast. He has a couple books on learning as well. I enjoy his stuff. Let's see. Last question. Where can others find out more about you?
ChantillyRanch.com. That is real easy. We've got all the information on there. I have a page for my daughter who is selling her horses. I've got a page for the regenerative ag philosophies and principles. I also have a page for wealth strategies that goes over the infinite banking concepts too.
Oh, very good. We'll put a link in our show notes.
Perfect.
Again, well, Dana, we really appreciate you coming on, giving us an update, and helping me understand something I'm not familiar with at all.
Excellent.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Grazing Grass Podcast, where we bring you stories and insights into grass-based livestock production. If you're new here, we've got something just for you. Our new listener resource guide is packed with everything you need to get started on your listening journey with the Grazing Grass Podcast. It gives you more information about the podcast, about myself, and next steps. You can grab your free copy at grazinggrass.com/guide. Don't miss out. And hey, do you have a grazing story to share? We're always looking for passionate producers to feature on the show. Whether you're just starting out or have years of experience, your story matters. Head over to grazinggrass.com/guest to to learn more and apply to be a guest. We'd love to share your journey with our growing community of grazers. Until next time, keep on grazing grass. For 10 seconds about the farm, a few weeks ago, I mentioned I was brush hogging a little bit, mowing a little bit, and I actually planned to do much more than I did, but I did a small area here near the house. With the main goal, I had grazed the cows through this pasture, and I wanted to come in and clip off all the foxtail seed heads because the cows didn't graze them. So go in there and do that. And then I had another pasture with some of these foxtail seed heads, and I thought I'll go clip some of those off and maybe the cows will graze the foxtail better. Well, it rained shortly after I did all that, and the foxtail immediately pushed up new seed beds, and you can't even tell I mowed. So basically, I wasted my time doing that, and partly because of that experience, and partly I'm not a person that likes to brush hog. I haven't mowed anymore. There's probably some mowing I'll do, but I don't want to just do it for aesthetic purposes. There's a real purpose. I'm more than happy to do it. For 10 seconds about the podcast, we have a past guest on today. She's going to share her updated journey, what she's been doing since she was on, I believe, episode 50. So what she's been doing since then. And then we get into IBC, or the infinite banking concept. It's something I know nothing about, or I knew nothing about until we talked to Dana. It's something I've heard about. I see the ads for farming without the bank. And I thought, here's someone who knows about it. Let's find out more. And I needed to find out more. And this way, you can find out more as well. This is not a financial podcast. We're not giving financial advice. But I hope you gain some through this conversation. And let's get back to Dana.